Hi, it's Joy, and today I'm going to be watching House of the Dragon Season 1 Episode 10, The Black Queen. The finale is here, and by the sounds of it we had the Green Council, now the Black Queen. We're going to be seeing what happens when Rhaenyra finds out, and the war will begin, or at least the first steps will be. I mean, literally, this episode could purely be about the Blacks, like the last one was purely about the Greens, or this episode could literally start the war. I don't know. I'm scared, and I'm excited. I have loved the journey of this first season, thrown straight back into Westeros, the mixed and matched politics. If you support one side over the other, and you think your side is completely good, you're not watching the show right. Both sides are deeply flawed, both sides are trying their best, and both sides are making dumb decisions, and both sides are doing their worst. It is a mess, and I love it. It is rich like real people and real history. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction and all of my reactions to this season on my Patreon. And let's go.
I was 4 and 10, same as you are now. I wasn't ready to be Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, but it was my duty. And in time, I came to understand I had to earn my inheritance.
Did you? I love you so dearly, I really do. But I feel like this is probably true, because of course it is, but this is either a realisation she's had very recently or stuff she's done off camera, and I want to see it.
My father looked after me and helped to prepare me for my duties.
Did he though?
My mother did the
Cerys is dead.
Yes. Yep.
I grieve this loss with you, Rhaenyra. Aegon has been crowned as his successor.
Yeah. Fuck. Shocks are not necessarily good.
So that the masses would see him as their rightful king.
That whore of a queen murdered my brother and stole his throne, and you could have done.
I get why you think that, but that's not what happened. But of course, you know, both sides think the worst of each other, and that's just like, oh, it kills you to watch.
A war is
Pretty much the worst news to have, and oh lord.
I've done this 5 times before. Keep your spirit in the 6th will be no different.
Get off! Get off! Get off!
I mean, this is not the same. Her father's dead, her throne's been taken.
Gone to plot his war.
Leave Daemon with me.
Jace. Jacerys!
It's little children, growing fast.
The sea snake's fever is broken and he has left even form.
Where is he sailing?
That much is unclear.
Good fortune for them.
Do you want to speak to the Maester, my prince?
He lost one wife to childbirth. But your niece needs you.
My mother has decreed no action be taken while she's in bed.
He's a brave lad. Moment of truth, the prince,
The ravens will part in this.
who Daemon would certainly like to have murdered,
I shall see it done.
I'm sure.
Summon Sir Stefan. Our Kingsguard are needed on the dragon now.
This is how much power women have in the moment. Daemon just takes control.
So I'm presenting you with a choice.
Jesus Christ, Daemon. I would not want Daemon as king consort. Rhaenyra might be a brilliant queen, he would be a terrible king. Rhaenyra. Accept help. Rhaenyra, it is not strong. I mean, it is strong doing this by yourself, but you don't need to be this strong. No one does. They don't shy away from the truth of this world, do they? It doesn't change how much you love it. She needed you. Here, not skulking around. No one should have to go through this pain. She's also mourning her father.
I mean no harm, brothers.
Yeah, I'm not my brother. My brother does mean harm, but I don't.
With all my strength,
Civil war is coming.
and give my blood for father, no children.
Does he still want the crown for himself? There are those who stayed loyal. And then there are those who don't like women. Or believed his last words were to change the line of succession. Here goes our Matilda. Ooh, the only one not kneeling is the queen who never was. I do think she'll be an excellent queen. if she doesn't let the pain of the betrayal consume her too strongly. Far better than Aegon. But I also do think a lot of lords would not want a woman on the throne because Westeros is a patriarchal mess. And yes, we should try and fix that, but they didn't do enough to fix it in Viserys' lifetime. And then there are those who truly believe Viserys' last words were to change to Aegon. And as always, those who seek power will side with whoever they think will give it to them. It's time for war. Stress, stress, stress. All you want to do is take a moment to breathe and heal
We
and
have 30
grieve.
knights, 100 crossbow men, and 300 men-at-arms. I'm going to treat with him myself.
What of Storm's End and Winterfell?
There has never
Daemon
lived
is
Stark
wanting this to be an equal partnership. Is she cool with that? I'm not personally.
Boros Baratheon
He's not
needs
stable
reminders
enough.
of his father's promises. The Greens have dragons.
They have
as
3
well.
adults, by my count. We have Syrax, Caraxes, and Meleys. Your sons have Virmax,
She's like,
and Tyraxes.
you count me?
Has Moondancer. Toehold, large enough to house a sizable host. Here, at Harrenhal, we cut off the west, surround King's Landing with the dragons, and we could have every greenhead...
Harrenhal, her boys. Father's place.
Or the 3-headed green dragon.
Green dragon, they've even fully greenified it all. Is this Alicent's terms? Is it Otto himself? Oof. Boldness.
Where is the princess?
She likes to make an entrance. Very reminiscent of the first episode.
In his wisdom and desire for peace, he's offering terms.
I mean, this is the right thing to do, and I fully support this over coming to try and secretly murder them. But also from like a medievalish standpoint, they probably should have just tried to murder them, both sides. Like, so many people are gonna die for this squabble for the throne. Throughout all of history, so many common people died so that their rich people could sit on a different chair. But trying to make peace is the right thing to do, but at the same time, hey, we just stole your throne, want to make peace? It's just not gonna work.
Grace will confirm your possession of Dragonstone. It will pass to your true-born son Viserys upon your death. Viserys will be
True-born.
the legitimate heir to Driftmark. He'll pardon any knight or lord who conspired against his ascent.
I would rather feed my sons...
They are decent terms given the situation.
Cups.
Stale oaths will not put you on the Iron Throne, Princess.
They should have been doing more.
The day your father's...
This is just a mess. Oh my god. It's the page she ripped out of the book that day in the garden. How have we ended up here? I mean, I know how we've ended up here. Miscommunication, rivalries, assuming the worst of each other, trying to protect yourself, believing the wrong
Queen
people.
Alicent has not forgotten the love you once had for each other.
Let's end this mama's farce. Sir Eric, bring me Lord Hightower so
I think something I've loved about how they've done this season, and I made changes things happen over the rest of it because I don't think Rhaenyra's about to go cool good terms, is I love that they've kept the relationship between these two strong women in the centre of it, and they are strong in different ways, and the fact that they had this love that is still there even if it is being crushed, and like, you know, I'm fully expecting by the end, but I think like it's the kind of deep bonded sisterhood that you never fully forget. Even when you're like, you're my enemy, I hate you, you still remember that and it still means something, and it's done such a good job of keeping that thread throughout all 10 episodes, even as they're being drawn further and further apart, and every now and then they come slightly close together and they get drawn further apart. It's just so well done. And, you know, yes, they are grown women now, they are making their own choices, they are being partly manipulated, there are partly kind of events happening in a certain way that they're out of their control that they just have to jump on the train with, but they are also grown women making their own decisions. But I just love the way they've kept this thread throughout.
King's Landing will have my answer on the morrow.
Given the cost of a war, both the potential cost to them and like their family and their personal lives, but also the potential cost of other lives, it is an offer they ought to consider. Even if they consider it for 5 minutes and then they're like, it's just too insulting, and they fuck off. That is fine.
For a man to be a dragon.
As Queen, what is my true duty to the realm, Lord Bartimus? Ensuring peace and unity, or that I sit the Iron Throne no matter the cost?
That's your father talking.
My father's dead.
this is the true, like, ugh. I'm so intrigued with what's going to happen because she is probably considering it, and this is almost like my favourite Rhaenyra scene of the whole season, and I love Rhaenyra. Because she's considering this. She's considering the cost to the realm and to the lives of people, and these are generous terms. Like, I mean, I say the generous terms, obviously they're screwing her over, but, you know, it could have been like, oh, we'll let you live, but instead they're, like, kind of giving everybody something. You could definitely see that as much as this situation is a mess, the hands of friendship. I'm so intrigued. I really almost wish they hadn't had Alicent misunderstanding Viserys and believing he changed his mind. Because if she had absolutely no way that she could try and claim that as the reason she's acting the way she's acting, it would have been very interesting to see the dynamics happening. But I love that they did it as well. I'm a mess. But I love Rhaenyra for actually considering this, because the reason I've been critical of her throughout this show is because while I think she would make a very good queen, while I love her as a person and as a 2022 woman, I'm like, yeah, you go, you take what you want. She lives in Westeros, and while she views herself as a Targaryen, and I think for a long time, like, I'm different from everybody else, I'm better, you can't live that way, and it sucks. She should be able to do whatever the fuck she wants. I mean, look at Aegon, he is now fucking king, and he has been 1,000 times worse than she was in her one night of debauchery. But that isn't the way Westeros works, and to survive in Westeros and to keep yourself and your family safe, you do have to comply to these rules or change them. And you can't change them instantly. You can't be like, I've decreed it's changed now. You have to do it subtly and help shift minds. She and Viserys should have been working hand in hand day in, day out. She should have lived at King's Landing the whole time, being the king's right hand, maybe even becoming the hand. I don't know if the heir can become the hand. I think they can. You know, that's how her trajectory should have been, to be that stable hand of government, not this woman whose children are clearly bastards and who murdered her husband. And, you know, it's kind of, she's much more scandalous to the common people than she is a stable sign of government. We as the viewer have seen her behind closed doors, and we know what she's like, and we can see that she is actually somebody who would make an excellent queen, whereas Aegon, for all that he looks young and princely, would be the worst king ever. But they've handled it so badly, and that's what I've been mostly critical of. Also, murdering random servant men and acting like you're the superior people isn't the right idea. But in this scene, actually considering the terms makes me love her so much, because even though I'm pretty sure the outcome of this is going to be she turns around and she says, I'm the rightful queen, it's what my father wanted, I'm his eldest child, I'm going to be the best queen, Aegon will be a terrible king, or we're going to war. Even though I'm sure that's what's going to ultimately happen, I love her for taking this seriously, because the war that comes will be devastating to the ordinary people, to the soldiers, to the loved ones of soldiers who die, to the people whose fields get razed and who go hungry, to the scale of this war on ordinary folk will be devastating. Not to mention on them, you know, maybe she will win, but she'll lose 2 sons. Again, I have no idea what happens at the end of it all. Just, I'm pretty sure she is Daenerys' direct ancestor, so she has to ultimately get her line on the throne. I have no idea how, what, where, and why. But just, you know, the cost of victory will be so high, and it will be a war on the scale that has not been seen in their lifetimes or in lifetimes for a long time. So I love her for the fact that she is considering it, because someone like Daemon is like, you've insulted my pride, you've taken something I wanted, therefore I'm going to kill you for it, and I don't care who dies along the way. Whereas she is properly considering the cost, and she doesn't want an excess cost that there doesn't need to be, and I love her for that.
He chose me to defend the realm, not cast it headlong into war.
The enemy have declared war. What are you going to do about it?
They've also offered peace. This isn't the answer either, Daemon. Oh, I'm intrigued for this scene.
Your duty as queen to crush rebellion.
You know, my oath reaches beyond our personal ambitions.
This is I love you, Rhaenyra, for this. I loved you already, and I love you more. She shared it with him.
What?
Oh no.
Viserys shared it with me when he named me heir.
Jesus Christ.
My brother was a slave to his omens and portents. Dreams didn't make us kings.
Are people still shipping them?
Dragons did.
I literally saw a video on my subscriptions today. Trying to get what he wants with fear and intimidation and actual physical abuse. People still love him and they're still shipping him after this episode. Not as a character. Like, I despise Daemon passionately. I love him as a character. I despise Otto passionately. I love him as a character. Both things can be true, but people are still being like, happy for the incest couple when it's in a domestic abuse incest couple. This is the truth of Daemon Targaryen.
He never told you.
You never truly saw him as the heir. His own petty self-worth is what comes first, and he would kill anyone. It's why I truly believe he will kill her strong sons, to get his on the throne if they win. If like they were to win tomorrow. I don't know how he would do it, because he would want... I think he cares about Rhaenyra in a very twisted way. But this is a man that groomed a child. Like, he wants power. Bashed his wife's head in with a rock, my loves. You knew he bashed his first wife's head in with a rock, Rhaenyra. What did you expect? Again, I'm not actually victim blaming here. Daemon is such a fantastic character, but that doesn't make him a good person.
Both our children stolen from us.
I mean, one of them's out there living his dream.
Baelor and Rhaenyra needed you, and you abandoned us for more adventure at sea.
I'd lost everything.
Yes,
Callers.
exactly. Men.
Our pursuit of the Iron Throne is at an end.
Actually, I'd like you to sign up with Rhaenyra's team.
Shall declare that girl destroys everything she touches.
That girl
How they've
is
switched.
holding the realm together at present.
Where is Daemon?
There were other concerns which demanded the prince's...
Sulking.
This high tower treason cannot stand.
He's siding with her.
You have the full support of our fleet and house. Your Grace.
And the war was won. I mean, definitely not that simple.
Send us.
The prince is right, Your Grace.
Brave kids. I know you just want to keep them safe.
Prince Lucerys will fly south to Storm's End and treat with Lord Boros Baratheon.
It's a baby.
Just remind these lords you go as messengers, not as warriors. You must take no part in any fighting.
I'm concerned that they're going to run into messages from the other side.
Under the eye...
I swear it.
I mean, he just wants to go to war and prove himself. Because he's a grown lad now. You'll get your chance far too soon. But this is a sweet kid. Ugh, these sweet kids are going to die, aren't they? I mean, I don't think they're all going to die. Some of them will. She loves you so much. Someone needs to go get in these unclaimed dragons, quick! I know it's not that simple, but... Is that where he's off to?
Prince Lucerys Velaryon.
Yeah.
I brought you a message from my mother,
The Queen!
the Queen.
Which is it? King or Queen?
I mean, both. Depends who you ask,
House of the
really.
Dragon does not seem to know who rules it. Remind me of my father's oath. King Aegon at least came with an offer. My swords and banners for a marriage pact. If I do as your mother bids, which one of my daughters will you wed? Boy,
My lord,
I'm
I'm
betrothed!
not free to marry.
and tell your mother that the Lord of Storm's End is not some dog that she can whistle up at need to set against her foes.
I mean, I know that she's technically... Is that really all... Or is this the second part? Because you need to offer them something. Even if you don't think you should need
I
to.
shall take your answer to the Queen.
My lord strong.
Fuck. The horrible part is it's true. But this is a teeny tiny boy.
I want you to put out your eye.
Jesus fuck.
Payment for mine.
Not here.
Give me your eye, or I will take it, boss.
Not in my hall! The boy came as an envoy. I'll not have blood shed beneath my roof.
I just want this baby home safe. I know 14 was considered a man in a lot of ways back then, but it's not. Yes, sweetheart, on your dragon and ride quickly before he can get to his. Fly fast. Because I'm scared about how quickly Aemond can get to his dragon. The longer we see this flight, the more concerned I get. Oh lord. Sorry, I was looking behind. I was convinced it was going to come in front. Why did they send him alone? Jesus Christ. He's just a baby. Daemon 2.0, stop. Smart boy. Genuinely stay in there. Because he can fly over the top. He's a child. You proved your point. You'll have time enough. Both dragons just disobeyed their masters. They are dangerous beasts. Fuck! Holy fucking shit, did that just happen? It's it's Westeros, of course that just happened. Neither dragon obeyed, because Arax didn't obey when he launched and fired, because the baby was screaming, no, serve me, and then Vhagar also didn't obey him, because, I don't know, was he not actually planning on killing Luke? He just wanted to scare him a bit? Injure him a little bit? Because he seemed genuinely horrified. Was he horrified that his dragon had disobeyed him, or was he horrified that the kid was dead? I don't want to think about this too much, okay? I wish none of this was happening, but it is. Maybe Daemon should have gone, instead of sulking, and not sent a child. Jesus Christ, I don't want to see. I don't want this. This will be the fate of so many mothers and fathers and brothers and sons and sisters and daughters. She tried to do it honourably, but I feel like this may unlock the less honourable side of her, and I don't like it, but I also can't blame her right now. Well, I'm not okay with that being the end of the season. Holy shit, that episode. Kind of glad it ended there, because as much as I know Rhaenyra was angry rather than sobbing, I might have been sobbing. This season has been a masterpiece. It is everything that made Game of Thrones great, and it is improved upon points where Game of Thrones wasn't quite so good, in my opinion, in its treatment of women. Like, obviously it is still set in a deeply patriarchal society in which women are regularly abused and mistreated, but it didn't do it in the way Game of Thrones did necessarily, and it kind of really highlighted women's struggles and women's pain with all the different childbirth scenes, with Alicent's marriage, with so many different elements that came along. And there are people making jokes about some of that stuff have totally misunderstood what they were watching, and oh well, their loss. It's such a richly done fantasy drama. I have loved every second. As always with finales, like that ending, all I want to do is talk about the ending, but I feel like I can't just ignore the rest of it. As I said in the middle of my reaction, I will always remember and value the fact that Rhaenyra's first instinct upon hearing the peace treaty was to consider it. She didn't take the lives that would be lost lightly, and even if in that moment it's hard to believe they would be your lives and your children's lives, and even though she had literally just lost a baby that morning, she considered the message, because she knows when she goes to war, it's her bannermen and their lords and their sons that are going to fight, and then it is the people, the ordinary, the small folk, their sons going off to fight, their fathers. Like, so many people will die in these battles, and throughout all of human history this has happened, and it's all been over which rich idiot can sit on the throne, and we're now supposed to support those rich idiots' descendants staying on them. It's not what we're talking about. But I love the fact that she considered this, in the same way that I will always value and love that Alicent was like, well, no, we shouldn't just murder Rhaenyra, we should try and make peace. Now, maybe if we had just murdered Rhaenyra, there wouldn't be war, but both of them kind of chose the peaceful, trying to do the better thing approach. And I say trying to do the better things, obviously Rhaenyra didn't then choose peace, because I also could see, in a lot of ways, it is a coup. Aegon is a piece of shit. If Aegon was at least like a decent king, you'd be like, well, you know, they're in good hands. But there are so many different elements about why that's not the case. Now, I do think Daemon getting the Kingsguard to swear their oath to the Queen or die, it's not really a good oath. It's kind of like both sides are doing this. You misstate the point of an oath. And I think there are definitely arguments to be made that oaths under duress don't count. But in Westeros, an oath is an oath. Destiny's all. Just jump in shows, it's fine. They've got half the cast. So just the ending, like, it's Westeros. You expect things like this to happen, and as it was happening, I was expecting it to happen. Then when it happened, I was expecting it to happen, but I was like, somehow still didn't expect it to happen. Does that make sense? So I'm so fiercely proud of Rhaenyra and the woman she has become, that she acknowledges that. I do take slight issue with her telling sweet baby Luke that she has always tried to prove that she is a worthy queen, because she really hasn't. Not that we've seen. Maybe they're gonna say, oh, in the time jumps, because there were a lot of them, she was doing things. But in what we've seen, people swore an oath to her. She sulked after the birth of her brother. Again, I don't blame her for that. She was a kid, and fucking sulk, do it. But she sulked. Then she married someone, produced children that were very, very, very clearly bastards, and insisted that they were not. Which, by our standards, again, it's not the big deal. She was making quite a nice deal with this man who was gay and couldn't publicly be gay. Like, we support that and love it, but from a Westerosi standpoint, it's unforgivable. You can't do that. Then killed him, as far as everyone is concerned, in order to marry her uncle. Like, you can definitely see where she's not going. The small folk would probably be quite scared about the idea of her being queen. Partly because it's a queen, and they've never had one of those before, and partly because of all the behaviour she's been up to. Now, yes, I don't know how much of Aegon's terrible behaviour is acknowledged, and even if it is, he's still young, so you could definitely, and again, I don't support this personally, they could see them having the standpoint of, oh, boys will be boys, he's only a young prince, he'll mature. Again, I think Aegon's a piece of shit who should not be anywhere near the throne, but yeah, like, and for the people, even if it's wrong, even if from a modern audience where, like, why on earth would you not want a woman on the throne? As I've said 1,001 times, in England, if good old Queen Elizabeth I, second even, had an elder brother, or had a younger brother, sorry, he would have been our king and she would not have been queen. It doesn't make any sense, but it was literally as recent as that law was still in place. Here, in Westeros, the idea of a woman on the throne is so foreign to them. The Lords just rejected it a generation ago. I'm waffling a lot, but I don't even know when my point started off, I'm so sorry. So kind of Rhaenyra is very, so I take some slight like, I don't like the line of her being like, I've tried to prove I'm a good queen. You really haven't. My father has made sure that everyone would accept me. He got them to make an oath one time and then was like, everyone believes it, or I'll cut out their tongue. You know, I think it could have been handled better. But I also think plot-wise, like show-wise, it is very realistic to me that a king, especially a king that is a Targaryen, old Valyrian, who believes himself to be a step closer to the gods than everybody else, that kind of person would think their word was enough and would think that everyone will accept Rhaenyra because it is just, I've decreed it and that's how it's going to be. But I think that was very short-sighted. And yeah, England's first civil war, I mean, if it counts as first, I don't think. Stephen and Matilda, it's happening. But yeah, it's a lot. Rhaenyra, she kind of lied when she said that, but maybe I think it's interesting that she said it because it shows us she truly believes she has done enough. And I think she didn't truly understand the scale of opposition there would be. Even had, you know, she had a seamless transition to power, had something been different, had, I don't know, Viserys never said anything on his deathbed and Alicent had been like, no, he wants us here, I'm going to support him, and try to somehow, I don't know how much power Alicent would have had to reverse Otto's decision, but you know, if somehow she had, and somehow that's what had happened, there would have been some kind of unrest, and now perhaps there would have been unrest that was easily quelled when the realm stayed peaceful, who knows. I do think also calling him Viserys the Peaceful when the second he dies the realm erupts into the biggest civil war yet probably does mean he wasn't very peaceful, because he just let things go to hell after he died. I'm rambling. See, I didn't like that sentence from Rhaenyra, but I can also see that she believes it to be true, but it's also not true. But I think it's almost frustrating to me because we have seen she is such a worthy and capable queen, and had she been doing these steps to reassure the lords, to reassure everybody, it would have been so much better because there would have been more ready support. And even now, she's not really playing the game that you have to do to survive here. She's just sending her sons to be like, hey, remember that oath you swore, or else. And then they're like, okay, yeah, well, we have someone else has just told me, support me or else, plus here's a nice reward you want. The Greens are playing the game smarter, and I have to say they still are. And again, who knows how that's going to change, because obviously Rhaenyra did the right thing in this episode, and she considered the peace. And I also potentially think she did the right thing when she rejected it. I mean, the real part of me that is like, so many people are going to die in this war, maybe we should just let Aegon be a shit king. Hope Otto and Alicent are able to have enough sway over him, and then, I don't know, just bump him off quietly. And I don't exactly like Aemond or think he'd be a very good king. I think he'd be a better king than his brother, and maybe once he had the power would try and, once he had what he thought was his right, just don't cross him and you'd be okay. It's a mess. I think I'm just trying to so that ending has totally scrambled my brains. So all I want to do is get into dissecting that. So kind of dissecting that by continuing my Rhaenyra discussion. I love that she stood her ground against Daemon in this episode. And that, I truly believe she sat with the decision and she made the decision she believes is right. That she looked at everything and was like, no, we have to do this war. It is what needs to be done. And it wasn't solely based on personal ambition. I think that was a part of it, but that is a part of every single character in this show. But she considered the alternative and probably came to the conclusion that, well, as much as I maybe believe Alicent, because I do think she was kind of touched when she saw that picture of the book, because I do, like I said, I believe their love for each other is real and there. I also believe that love is not going to matter, but it's there. It's a complex relationship and I love it and I'm here for it. Even if, Alicent meant the treaty truthfully, there is no guarantee that 1 year down the line, 2 months down the line, 5 minutes from now, Otto or Aegon or anybody else wouldn't want to get rid of the potential usurpers to the throne. At the very least, I could see down the line, when Rhaenyra definitely has no support, Aegon passing some kind of bill that is like, they are bastards, you're aware of that, right? And legally declaring them as illegitimate. Obviously, he couldn't necessarily do the same to her children with Daemon unless he's fished up Laenor, because both sets of Rhaenyra's children are illegitimate, but it's fine. So I love Rhaenyra for that, and I think it showed you how she will be a good queen because she truly weighs the options. She doesn't just rush in based on personal pride like a lot of men and people do, like Daemon does. This episode reiterated to me that Daemon should never be allowed within 10 feet of a throne. But, and this is the big question, what will Rhaenyra be like next season? Because she has just lost a baby. I mean, she's lost a literal baby, and then she has lost a child she has raised for 14 years. She sent him on a mission, and he died on that mission. He was killed doing something she ordered him to do, and she ordered him not to be... No, it wouldn't have made a difference. But, she sent her baby, who really wasn't prepared enough to go, on that mission. Because she truly believed that it would be treated honourably, that he would go, and that he would give his message and he would be heard and he'd be allowed to leave. And the Baratheons did their best for that. She wasn't counting on Aemond being there, which she should have been more prepared for. Jace would have been more prepared to face him, but even then, dragon v dragon, I don't know. Aemond is very, very scary. And she will carry the weight that she sent him there, that he was scared and she sent him there. I'm not blaming her, I want to point out, but her internal thought process. She will also be so angry, and we saw that at the end, that this war has already taken 2 of her children, one of whom had lived for 14 years, that the Greens would do. They struck first, and they killed her son. And grief like that, on top of the grief she was already feeling, this kind of grief could change her. It could make her more unhinged with her decisions. It could make her more rash and more bloodthirsty. I'm really scared that if it does, because if it does and she gets more bloodthirsty, this war is gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a mess. I'm almost mad that we don't have another episode because I want to know what Alison's response is to this. Horror? Terror? Because, like, the revenge will come. No one is the rest of the world, like, the first casualty in this war was a 14-year-old boy. Like, yes, they're men by their standards, but he's a baby. So I think I think it's going to be really interesting because Rhaenyra, we could see Rhaenyra in season 2 who is dealing with her grief but is keeping her rational head in place, and maybe the only time she would be irrational was, I mean, if they know it was Aemon, I'm sure they will, because they'll eventually get word that he was in the Baratheon keep and they had words, etc. Even if the Baratheons are siding with Aemon and Aegon, they'll hear eventually about the altercation, they'll know who did it. Maybe he'll be the one she won't have that rational-headed response with and the rest will, or she'll just be fully like, I want the Greens gone, they killed my kid. And again, I would understand why she was being like that, I also would not support it because, yeah, I wouldn't support either side being like that. So this episode was a fantastic Rhaenyra episode. I kind of think that for me and for my viewing of this show, I think Rhaenyra's character needed, it's going to sound weird given that she basically had half the screen time, if not more screen time, less time jumps, more time spent on her character from the 14-year-old child we first met all the way through to the woman we have now, because there are so many decisions she makes that are so utterly baffling and self-indulgent seeming that I want to watch her make them more than just see the aftermath and have her being like, oh, I did nothing wrong. But no, this episode was fantastic exploration of Rhaenyra's character. A character that I still despise is Daemon, and I despise him while also thinking he's a fantastic character who's part of what makes this show great. Both things can be true. I am deeply concerned because on my subscriptions, a fan video account that I followed for a very long time on YouTube posted a Daemon and Rhaenyra edit this morning, and I didn't look at it because obviously I hadn't seen the episode yet. Did you watch what I watched? It's not okay. He was angry because Viserys had never told him the thing that is handed down to the heir, even though he was the presumed heir for so many years. Even like before Rhaenyra was born, he was definitely the heir, and then he was the presumed heir. He was angry because at this crucial time Rhaenyra was countermanding his orders, and he was realising that even though he's going to be the consort to the Queen, he's not king. He's not going to have the power he wants and has fought so fucking hard to get. And he took it out on the woman he supposedly loves, his niece. And that showed you Daemon's core. That anger, that rage, that hurting another person that he supposedly cares for. And I cannot understand how anybody can think they're romantic. Actually, I saw on Facebook when I was scrolling, and I scrolled past it in case it was a spoiler, but I read very quickly, and it was like, this look, and it was Daemon like looking at Rhaenyra. I have to hope that was posted a couple of days ago, because this is Daemon's true character, and again, you can love him as a character, I do. He can be your favourite character even, that is okay, because I think you don't necessarily have to like favourite characters, you just have to acknowledge what a deeply problematic man he is. Every character in the show is problematic, but he is deeply problematic. He's murdered one wife, he's now beginning the domestic violence cycle. Maybe the fact that she's queen will, help her escape that a little bit. Daemon is going to be an interesting character to watch. He's definitely going to nurture the I want blood element in Rhaenyra as she deals with her grief. I can't see him being the stable hand in this relationship now. I think he's going to try and be like, yes, we'll destroy them all in revenge, yes. And she'll be like, even if she is rational, she'll be like, they may, oh, but he's off murdering. I'm very concerned going forward. And obviously, I have been very critical of Rhaenyra throughout the show, largely because when I look online after the episode, I would see hero, like worshipping of Rhaenyra. She is a goddess. She is the nearest Mark II. She is the goddess come to earth. And then I'd be like seeing Alicent called the C word, and people laughing at her, making fun of her, and calling her evil when she really wasn't. So that's why I've been very vocally critical of Rhaenyra and bolstering Alicent, is because I feel like in a lot of the discourse, and I actually haven't watched any other reactors to this show. I tend to watch reactions to shows I'm reacting to once I'm done watching the show, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm alone. Some of the comments I've got make me feel like I'm alone. But this show isn't about one side being good or bad. History isn't about, most of the time, one side being wholly good or wholly bad. These are all people doing their best and understanding the situation the way they can understand it. At the beginning of this episode, we had Daemon declaring, Alicent killed my brother. She didn't even remotely kill him. No one did even. I don't think it wasn't even Otto. Like, literally the man just died of his illness. But both sides are gonna see the worst in each other. And that is part of what brought us to this point. Both sides are good and both sides are bad. And both sides have good people on them and both sides have bad people on them. It is the way of the world. I think Aemond would be a much better king than Aegon, and I think we should shove Aegon off a cliff. I do not necessarily know that Aemond would be a very good king, or a king I would support, but he'd be better than his brother. But yeah, it's all a mess, basically. That's why we love this show, that's why I love history, because there's so... And like, the key thing you have to remember with history is it's so often written by the victors. The people that came out on top write the history. And so in the history books they say, my opponents were evil, and I was good. And it's not black and white like that. I think it's going to be interesting to a lot of people for Jace. He is the heir to the throne now. I'm very intrigued to see the kind of welcome he got at Winterfell and Riverrun. I think he was going to both, wasn't he? When will he learn his brother died? What will he do? Will Aemond go straight home like, Mama, killed a kid? Or will he then be like, the other one will be at Winterfell? I don't know. Will he feel bad because kind of one of their last interactions was him beating him at sword fighting and yelling at him. But in general he loved his brother. I don't think there was any actual bad blood there. It's going to be a lot for a lot of these characters. We've already seen Jace being very... Jace wanting to fight, wanting to take the war and sort of... but also being very loyal to his mother, even if he can't... I want to go and fight, Mum, but trying to do what she said. It's going to be interesting to see how he continues to develop because he's only young himself, like 16, I guess. They're all babies. This episode is so masterfully done. And then the Corlys being back, he's hale. I mean, he's not quite hale and healthy, but he's almost there. He's recovered, and Rhaenys, and the flip-flop from in the previous episodes with them, with her being mad at him for constantly putting their family into war and fighting, and then he's like, look, we're just going to go take our girls and just be like, we are not part of your war. I don't know, I mean, you know, maybe it would have worked. But instead she talks him round. And I think part of it is she's looking at this young woman who is fighting for her birthright in a way that she didn't do. And I don't think she could have done. It was all done legally in her case. But she is kind of seeing this young woman trying to fight for the very thing that was taken from her and wants to try and support that as best she can. And I love that in a lot of ways. I just... all of these characters are so rich and interesting, and I cannot wait to continue exploring them. Then we have Aemond, who would be a better king than his brother. There is a genuine part of me that is kind of surprised he hasn't bumped his brother off, but then I suppose Daemon never did kill his brother to try and take the throne, and I do think Aemond and Daemon are very, very similar. And that whole scene where he's like, he's got there first to the Baratheons, and he's offered them something, which, I mean, the woman that marries him I feel bad for. He's given them something more than hey, powerful lord, remember that oath your dad made? Which wasn't the smartest play. Again, Rhaenyra doesn't really have anything to offer other than one day, when I'm queen, you'll get something. You know, like maybe one of your grandchildren could be married to one of my grandchildren, would kind of be as, like, she doesn't really have anything to offer without breaking other offers and things. But he looked and he saw this 14-year-old child in a keep, surrounded by people who had just pledged to the other side, and he saw his chance to get vengeance. And he took it. I knew the dragon was going to be following. What really intrigues me is the look on Aemon's face when it's happened. When the dragon is in pieces, and I believe the boy is in pieces, and it's just... his dragon did not obey him. Now, the interesting thing to note there is neither dragon did. And I think both dragons, Luke's dragon, he was shouting, no, obey me. You know, Luke just wanted to hide, get out of there, get home. And I feel a bit like maybe Aemond had kind of scared the kid and yelling, my vengeance is there, you know, I'll deal with him on a battlefield one day kind of attitude. I don't necessarily think he was trying to literally murder him right now. Maybe he was, I don't know. But then Arax was like, that's a mean dragon chasing me, I'm gonna shoot fire at it. And Vhagar was like, you don't fucking do that to me, and went for him. It was very much the dragons fighting for themselves, and I think that's part of what Viserys said. Part of what caused the fall of Old Valyria is dragons are dangerous creatures. They are powerful, intelligent creatures. They aren't just mindless beasts that do whatever you tell them to. the Valyrians have some kind of a hold over them, but that doesn't mean you can always guarantee that they will do what you want, and the dragons caused what just happened. Whatever Aemon's intentions were, whether his intentions were to kill him or not, in that moment it was the dragons' actions that were out of the hands of their riders. Both boys, were shouting, "No, dragon, don't do this, sir, obey me, serve me, dragon, obey me." And both dragons didn't do it. I think it's very important that shows you the danger of a dance of dragons, danger of dragons in warfare, and just how dangerous this war will be, because if one of the dragons decides, "I'm sick of this, I'm going to burn everything," it'll burn everything. You know, dragons are powerful, and they did a very good job of showing that. The intrigue for me is the look on Aemon's face, because I do think there was a part of him that was like, holy fuck, that kid just died. Like, my dragon just killed that kid. Oh. He didn't look at all like gleeful. Now, was that because every single thing that just happened there, his dragon chasing them, etc., was not something he controlled, and he was scared? He was riding this giant beast that he could not control. Was that the fear, and he couldn't care less that he'd killed Luke? Or was there a part of him that was like, I only meant to scare the brat, I was gonna kill him later? Because I definitely think he would have also been under orders. Neither side really wants to be the first one to draw blood, and you don't really want to be the first one to draw blood on a child. Maybe he doesn't care, I don't know. I don't think Aemon is going to go home and cry himself to sleep about it. I'm not trying to say, oh, he's a good person. But it was just a very intriguing look of fuck on his face. And was it because he drew the first blood and he killed a kid? Or was it because his dragon didn't obey him? I definitely think it's potentially both. But yes, fuck. It's Game of Thrones. You gotta have some random child murders here and there, and deaths. I mean, I say deaths when you didn't expect them. We were kind of expecting him to die, but I also, it's weird because it was like I was totally and utterly thinking Luke could die here, Luke could die here, and then he did. And I was like, Luke just died here? Oh. So the stakes in the next season are as high as they could possibly be, and they made them even higher. I am so excited for House of the Dragon Season 2. I'm also very, very scared for it. You definitely have to remember with Westeros, it is a show that you love the characters, even though they're all terrible people, and that you keep them at an arm's length, because if you let any of them in too close, your heart will break. Fantastic season, a fantastic episode. Thank you so much to everybody that has watched along with me, and thank you so much. If you want to find the unedited versions of these reactions, they're all on my Patreon, and thank you so, so much for watching.